Hello, folks. Welcome to This Week in History with Mike and Will. I'm Mike.
I'm Will.
And this is This Week in History. What we do is every week Will comes here and explains an event that happened historically. And he has 1 hour to do it. He explains it to me, and I listen and nod and smile. So this week we're going to be discussing the first Roman triumph.
First Roman triumph.
March 1st, 509 BC.
Quite some time ago.
That's where the years go backwards.
Yes.
Ready, Will?
I'm ready, Mike.
1 hour to explain it to me.
All right. So, to start with, because to understand history, we always have to go back a little bit before the event. We're going to talk about this guy. His name is Livy. L-I-V-Y.
That's not pictured on the front.
That's not him.
Right.
That's a wolf.
It's a wolf.
It's a really weird-looking wolf.
Wolf looks a little stunned that he's included in this book.
How long do you think he had to hold that pose?
To be sculpted?
To be sculpted there? The wolf keeps moving.
Wolves are very patient models.
He does. He has like a raised eyebrows. He's just. Oh, that's gonna be the header pick for this. But what that's supposed to represent, I think, is the wolf that reared Romulus and Remus, the supposed founders of Rome.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Livy was a guy who lived well after all of this. He wrote 15 books about the history of Rome. Unfortunately, 5 of those don't exist anymore. They were lost.
Were they in the Alexandria
They might have
library?
been. They might have been. He was contemporary of the Roman emperor period.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, right after Augustus took power is when he started writing this. So when the empire started, he started compiling all this stuff. Unfortunately, because Rome has been around, supposedly the founding was in 753 BC, so even further back than our story begins. A lot of that information is hard to come by. And what makes it really complicated is that because Rome fought a lot of wars, they didn't always win early on, and the Gauls from where France is nowadays conquered Rome and burned it.
The Gaul of them.
The Gaul of those Gauls. But yeah, they burned it, and unfortunately one of the things they burned was like the palace where all the records were kept.
Oh, no.
So there were other things that weren't burnable that were maybe kept. Stone tablets, clay tablets.
That's why I always back up all my files on stone tablets.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it takes forever.
It does, and you gotta. And if you mess up and you hit too hard, you break the whole tablet. You have to start over again. I just never. And obviously, wax tablets are even worse idea.
In fire,
fire, melt. Great for temporary note keeping.
Sure.
It's like an Etch-a-Sketch, or what's the one that's like the Etch-a-Sketch where you draw on it and then you slide it across.
It's a wax tablet, I think.
Well, is it? That's one that's like when you had a kid, it had little hexagons on it, and then you'd write and it would turn black.
Magnet.
With the stylus, and then that was it.
It's iron filings.
It was iron filings or something. But anyway, they didn't have that.
No,
they had paper, lots of paper, lots and lots of paper. And
this was
went whoosh.
Okay.
So Livy had to kind of guess on some things, possibly. A lot of early Rome is already shrouded in mystery and mysticism and mythology.
Sure.
The problem being, Romans suck at having mythology. They don't have one of their own. Everything they have, they stole from the Greeks. Like all their gods, just Greek gods, but with different names.
Is that because there are warlike people with no imagination?
Possibly.
Right. Who came up with the guys suckling on a wolf?
That is a Greek story. I actually even wrote that down. So even the Romulus and Remus is stolen, and it's the story of Neleus and Peleus.
Ooh.
Peleus was Achilles' dad, very famous warrior, and Neleus was his brother, and they were raised by a wolf. So even and they wound up being kings. So even the founding story of Rome is a theft.
Stolen, man. Romans.
And one of the other stories is that one of the heroes of the Trojan War, Aeneas, he was a Trojan, and the Trojans lost, and they all ran away. The ones that didn't die. Most of them died. There was the horse. A bunch of guys came out, opened the gates,
did not
murdered everybody. Brad Pitt was involved.
Yeah.
Allegedly. And it wasn't good.
Right.
Also, the movie wasn't that good.
We'll discuss that later.
Just as another conversation. But Aeneas and his family supposedly fled to Rome from Troy, which would be a heck of a trip, because you'd have to go past Greece.
Yeah.
As a Trojan, it's not a great idea.
No.
But they apparently sailed not away from Greece, but towards it. Tricked them. Doubled back on them.
Okay.
And then landed where Rome is today and settled. That's
So the Trojan War happened before
Yes.
Rome was a thing, right?
Yes. Like 2000 BC is a guess.
Okay.
It's difficult to gauge.
Sure.
But yeah, significantly longer before. So yeah, some of this information is not great, but a lot of it has been picked at and looked at in the terms of, well, it could be like this makes sense. So we'll skip like Romulus and Remus and the being raised by a wolf and all of that.
Right.
What we do know for sure is that Rome was originally a kingdom. Had a king. The Senate usually picked the king. When one king died, wasn't necessarily their kid, although a lot of the times it was a family member.
It had a Senate then, too,
Yes.
at some point.
Yeah, and again, that's another. How long was the Senate a thing? I think it's part of the legend is that Romulus and Remus said, "We'll have a Senate to pick these important things. A group of people who will help us rule, but we're the boss."
All right. It still seems vague, this beginning. At some point, someone had
It
to...
starts to crystal. Yeah, exactly. Like, we're not really sure what happened.
But at some point in history, someone somewhere decided these things.
Yes.
Maybe not
yes.
one person. I guess they just...
It probably was the Roman people were like, how do we make a decision? Well, let's all talk about it. But not the poor people.
Right.
Never the poor people. Although, funny enough, when Rome first started out, it was literally like mud huts, and they were considered like savages.
Yeah.
Compared to their northern neighbors who were the Etruscans.
We're all poor people here.
Yes.
Except he's got a nicer mud hut.
Exactly. His is a
he's in
higher
charge.
quality mud. He has some stones, and he has a door.
He's the richest man in Mudville.
And actually, one of the ways Rome grew was they went to a neighboring town, which was much nicer, and they had a party. And when everybody got drunk, they literally stole all the women, all of them.
But it'd be a shame if something happened. I thought you were gonna say like they stole buildings or no.
They just picked the houses
Shame
up.
for something if it happened to your women.
No, they just took all of the women and doubled their population, and then tripled, quadrupled, and quintupled it because they were just like babies. That's a Roman story. They like write it like, "We did good, guys." Like,
Was it a cool thing we did?
You just kidnapped and raped like hundreds or thousands of women. We're not really sure how many. But yeah, they went to this party, they got everybody liquored up, and then they stole all the women. And the guys were like, the Romans hit them with clubs.
Good way to start a civilization, I guess.
That's how you do it, I guess. And yeah, then they absorbed that other community eventually.
I would think.
I think it was on a neighboring hill. Because originally Rome was just a hill. And then throughout their history, they just take more hills.
7 hills at
It's
some
the
point.
7 hills of Rome. Yeah, so it starts out here, and then me. It's interesting because like their kings are accredited. Oh, he took the hill of such and such and expanded the city into it. So one of the kings we'll talk about is credited with having.
So
taken
Rome could have just as easily been a place called Jerry's house.
Yep.
If Jerry
Mud
had a better hill taking ability.
Yeah, if somebody else had taken it, because there were a bunch of other people on those hills.
Sure,
They had commanding views of everything. They were, caught the light the right way, so you could grow stuff.
But at some point, Rome took it.
And at some point, it was just because it's literally just because they're more belligerent than everybody around them. And they got better at it.
Yeah.
Because the more you fight,
Yeah,
the better you
the
get
more
at
you
it.
get.
Yeah. And then they started establishing systems. So, Romulus and Remus, or whoever the founding kings were, they die. Then there's more. Eventually, the Etruscans get involved with Rome. And the Etruscans are they're considered a mystery civilization.
Etruscans or Etruscans?
I believe it's Etruscan because it's Latin.
Yeah.
And the U is a U.
But
it could be Etruscan. It could be Etruscan, but I believe it's Etruscan. We had an Etruscan dancer in when we did Much Ado, or a funny thing happened on the way to the forum. So
You
we
mean
claimed to be an
potato?
Yes. Potato, Etruscan.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Etruscan brute.
Boo.
Etrus.
Etruscan. Very good.
I like with the words that are different, and then we put it in the description, and then they're looking up the different spell words.
That's a good one.
Do you know the YouTube automatically does closed captioning for us?
That's amazing. Thanks, YouTube.
I guess it means they're listening to what we're saying.
That's kind of terrifying.
Yeah, A robot is. Anyway, sorry.
That,
It's neither here nor there.
That's fine. It's neither here nor there.
Etruscan.
The Eddies.
Yep.
They were from the city of Etruria,
Wow.
which is not easy to say, so I just say
No.
Etruscans.
And I also believe that's where He-Man's from.
No, that's Eternia.
They were close, though.
So close so far. So the Etruscans started getting involved, and they had a family called the Tarquins.
Okay.
Tarquin. Tarquinians.
Yeah.
And they married in and eventually became kings of Rome. They were seen as foreigners and kind of interlopers, but they were there, and they were there to stay, and they were wealthy. And they kind
That
of
seems to make people stick around longer.
yeah, and they set up a dynasty, and the Romans were like, I don't like this, but the rich guys were like, yeah, this is fine with us because we still get to have all the power and we make more money.
Oh, sure. Dynasty's great.
It broadened out trade, and it made the wealthy wealthier and the poor poorer.
Strange how the wealthy love that.
They loved that. So, and since they have all the voting power, they're like, this is what we're gonna do. And the poor Roman was just like, man, this is stupid.
Fine. I guess I'm going back to my mud hut.
I don't like it, but this is my life. Eventually, there comes along this fifth king, who was a Tarquin, and when he died, rather than it go to the crown going to one of his sons, his wife advocated for this other guy. His name was Servius Tullius.
Servius Tullius.
Servius Tullius. And Servius Tullius was allegedly the son of a slave,
Oh.
who was the son of a slave. So he comes from very poor background.
Yeah.
But he worked his way up from like slave kid to a man of action, man of respect. And there's two very different views on how he came to power. One is that he was completely loved by all the people and they all voted for him. They're like, this is great.
That sounds like his story.
But ignored the Senate.
Yeah.
And then another one is the entire Senate approved of him. And then the people were fine with it, but it was the Senate chose him. So it was one was people's choice, the other was Senate's choice. And it's kind of muddied. And
Well, as we all know, the People's Choice Award is far more coveted than the Oscar.
that's correct. Or is it? I don't think that's right, but I don't follow awards.
Okay.
That's your job.
All right. It's not right.
It's not. The Oscars are the ones that everybody cares about.
Yeah.
But even I know that. But anyway, so this Servius guy, once he takes power, he proves to be an extremely popular guy.
Oh. So he's son of a slave.
Yep. And he's like,
He's in charge.
but he basically says, no more of that.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to treat the lower classes like lower classes anymore. We're going to elevate them.
Yeah.
And what he winds up doing is he splits the population into kind of two roles, and just says, you guys make this much, and you guys make less than that much. So here are your responsibilities for protecting our city.
Okay.
And he helps craft the first Republican militia system of this is how we'll fight. Rather than before it was like, you guys just go and fight however you want to.
Okay.
There's no real organization. He based it on who could be a hoplite, which is a Greek soldier. So we'll talk a little bit about the equipment, because we never talk about that, and it's important to point out the differences. But a hoplite typically wore like a bronze breastplate, cuirass, they called it, and then a helmet, and then a shield. And then if you had more money, you had wrist guards, called a vambrace, and a shin guard, called your greaves. Still fought barefoot, which, I mean, they had sandals, but your toes are very exposed, and there's lots of sharp, pokey things on a battlefield.
Yeah,
I just wouldn't feel comfortable with
Oh,
that.
no.
'Cause
Shoe
when I was in the
technology
army,
was
like the most important piece of gear was boots.
Yeah.
Good boots. Covers your toes, protects your feet.
Yeah.
Lots of pokey stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Italy's rocky and pokey, but sandals,
I mean, feet just must have been tougher.
they
back
were
then.
tougher feet back then. I think that's like a thing.
Yeah.
Just we've gotten weaker because we don't step on pokey rocks all day.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do. Just walk around in togas and step on pokey rocks, and you just become a tough people.
That might be a little different here in Wisconsin.
Yeah, it might not be a good idea. For like 3 months out of the year,
Yeah, maybe.
maybe 2 months. 2 months out of the year. So anyway, He sets this up so you can either equip yourself as a hoplite, so
Okay.
you have to be able to afford a breastplate, a helmet, a shield, and a spear. Preferably a sword or a good dagger in case you get in close, you can stab somebody.
Sure.
Because the spear is less effective when you're this far away.
Yep, that's true.
But if you're really far away, it's really effective.
Good.
Unless you're really, really far away, then you need a bow.
Right.
And then the people that weren't wealthy enough to do that could be slingers, just the old school slingshot.
Oh, but everyone's going to be in the military
But
somehow?
everybody has to join up.
Men and women?
Just men.
That's right.
Well, because back then, women were largely in charge of like maintaining the household, but also we need babies.
Making the babies.
And they were making babies, and that was a very primitive. This is a very primitive 2,500-year-old society
Sure.
of we need more people. This is your responsibility to grow the society. We'll stab all each other.
We'll stop other people from being...
Also, probably was the women were like, "Do we have to stab everybody?" And the guys were like, "Well, we're gonna go stab somebody." I mean, I don't know. I don't know what it's based in, but
I don't know. I don't know the attitudes of women in general.
I don't either. It's not recorded. It's almost like they were ignored.
It's almost.
We're so close to Greece. It's like that's the founding of the patriarchy.
There. We'll do
Been around
that
a
one.
long time.
We'll do that one someday.
Yeah, the whole concept of gender roles kind of originates in this era.
Okay.
And setting up like, well, women can do all the indoor stuff and men do all the outdoor stuff. We're bigger and stronger, typically. So the women can do the things that require intelligence and finesse. But you can't be in charge of anything.
Right.
So there's
Smart, but not too smart.
There's not any equality.
Yeah.
It's not, and women largely like outnumbered the men. Typically throughout history, it's like 50-50, but the women typically. Plus, they're not the ones getting killed in war. That's wrong.
That's why
in
they're
battle.
smart.
They're not killed in battle. They are killed in war after a battle's won, and then everybody runs through the town and kills everybody they can find.
Okay.
Then they're killed. And they weren't taught how to fight, so it's not like they can protect themselves. Pretty brutal.
What else we have that's not
Brutal.
women getting killed in the street?
Right. We get old men killed in the
Oh,
streets.
boy.
We got an
good.
old man
All right.
coming up.
Perfect.
All right, so Tullius sets this system up so that Rome can be defended.
Yes. Good
and
idea.
It's
Tullius.
pretty well received, too,
Sure.
because the people are like, yeah, we want to fight, we just don't have any money.
Yeah.
And they're allowed, also the wealthier are able to buy their way out, but it's enough coin to outfit soldiers.
I see.
And that's what the money's used for.
Okay.
So it's like,
That's fair, I guess.
yeah, it's like, fine, you don't want to, I mean, 70-year-old rich guy
Now,
in
how do
battle,
they-
or you can outfit,
Now,
you
what-
know, 35-year-old guys with some muscle that can still move.
Now, what do they even have for money at this point?
And so there's a story, there's a legend that Servius Tullius was the first guy to cast coins.
Oh.
That's not necessarily true.
Okay.
It's hard to gauge because he's old,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
But they would use either chunks of metal that were coin-ish. They wouldn't necessarily have a mint. Barter economy was very common.
Okay.
Ingots of metal were valuable. Pottery, wine, produce,
Yeah.
lots of
So a
trade
rich
goods.
person would have just a bunch of stuff.
Stuff. Yep.
Okay.
Land was a big one. If you had land, then you had flocks. If you had flocks of animals, you had wool or pelts or milk or whatever, meat, food. Most societies were based agrarian-wise. Like everything is all about the farm. So the more land you have, the more wealth you have. And that was just kind of the way it was across the world for a very long time until they started developing industries.
Yeah.
But in like the Mediterranean, wine is very popular. That's a great drink. It's fortifying.
Sure, yeah.
And Greece and Italy are great for growing wine. Olives and dates, figs, stuff like that.
Historically, too, people have been paid with like beer and food. right?
Yes,
That was
yes.
yeah.
Food is a huge pay
Yeah.
thing. Like, we will give you food rather than we give you money so you can go buy food.
Right.
Eventually, they did that just because that was easier. You go buy your own stuff.
Right.
We're not, it's harder to carry enough food. You go buy it. Meh.
Sure. Plus, people started doing special orders.
Yeah. I don't like this bread. I like that bread.
Do you have any 7-grain bread? I don't like the oat in this.
Oh, is that
5-grain
whole wheat?
bread.
I like white bread. Everyone makes fun of him. Tullius, you like white bread? I knew it.
I like bread.
I like white bread. It's just fine.
All right.
Anyway. So, yeah, that was kind of the thing. Barter economy, largely. But coins were starting to become used. The
Sure.
Etruscans had coins. We know that because we found them.
Oh,
We,
yeah.
as if I'm part of the archaeological community.
I don't know.
But they have been found, but not a lot of records about Etruria and the Etruscans. So
Yeah.
anyway, Tullius is fantastically popular with the common folk.
Not so much.
Not as popular with the landed wealthy elite. Because anytime you try to uplift the lower people,
Mhm.
the 5 really rich guys hate you.
Yeah, especially if that person lifting him up is a lower person anyway.
Exactly. So this really sticks in the craw of this guy, Lucius Tarquinius Superbus.
Ooh, Superbus.
Superbus. That was his picked name.
Yeah,
He was not given this. That was his choice. And he was either the son or the grandson. They're not sure. But facts start to get better.
Okay. Okay.
He's either the son or the grandson of the king before Tullius. And his sister-in-law, or his wife, is Servius Tullius's daughter. Tullius
His
has
wife.
let me back up to explain it better. Tullius has 2 daughters.
Yes.
He has Tullia Major
Mm-hmm.
and Tullia Minor.
Aw.
Tullia Major is not ambitious. She's very chill.
Yeah.
Daddy's girl. And she marries Superbus.
Superbus.
Minor,
Yeah.
Tullia Minor, is super ambitious.
Well, with a name like Minor, you gotta prove
Yes,
something.
She's got something in there. It's like they set her up for failure.
Yeah.
She's super ambitious and doesn't like who she ends up with. A guy named Aruns. Aruns. So it's Aruns or Aruns or Aruns. Aaron.
Aaron.
Aaron. So Aaron. She does not like Aaron or Aaron because it's 2 R's.
Yep.
Aaron. Aruns. It's a weird name, Aruns. So she gets this idea in her head that, I don't like my husband, and Superbus doesn't like his wife, who's her sister,
Uh-huh.
and they murder each other's spouses.
Yikes. This is why you don't let women have ideas.
Your words, sir.
That just seems to play out there. You said she had an idea.
She had an idea. It was a really bad idea. Well, it was a great idea for her.
I guess. Yeah.
Because they do this, and then they get married to each other.
Yep.
Somehow this doesn't stir up a big kerfuffle.
Yeah.
I would be like, what?
Everyone else
Oh, yeah,
sees
my
something wrong
husband
with
just
that.
happened to fall on this knife 6 or 7 times. And my wife fell off her horse into a ditch
Well, at least
600 yards away.
they can understand each other.
Mm-hmm. Super
A
ambitious.
sympathetic shoulder to cry on.
Yep. Oh, you lost
Oh.
you lost your sister, and she was also my wife, and you lost your husband, who nobody liked, but you did. Sad face. Let's get married.
Yeah.
Not long after they
Sure.
got married. So they get married, and then on top of this, Tullia knows Tarquin wants more power, and she does too. So they conspire to murder her dad, who's the king.
The Tullius?
Yes,
Our good
Tullius.
buddy?
Yes, Tullius, who's again really well-respected guy, and he's
Nice guy.
old now. He's apparently ruled for almost 40 years.
Wow.
There's a high end where he ruled for 42 or 44 years.
Okay.
So he's older.
Sure.
And this guy, Superbus, starts going into the Senate and just saying this guy's scum. He's a son of a slave of a slave. He's filth. He's garbage. He's trying to ruin us all. He's trying to make Rome
Wow.
weak. He's weak on our neighbors. He's
We've known
weak
him
on
for 40 he's been in
everybody.
charge for 40
He's
years.
trying to disenfranchise the rich and enfranchise the poor, and that gets us, and it's un-Roman. Just
That's got to be a hard pitch, though. I mean, after 40 years of rule, I mean,
But they bite. The
Yeah.
rich guys bite because they're like, we could be richer. He's like, oh yeah, you could be richer. Also, here's money. Because he's a Tarquin and they're very, very wealthy. He starts throwing out money. Hey
Okay.
guys, let's maybe overthrow a dude.
Yeah.
So
Money talks.
he spends like weeks doing this, seeding the seeds of doubt,
Yeah.
but only among the ruling classes. For the most part, the poor are still like,
Yeah.
we like this guy. We're significantly less poor.
We've earned no money from not liking him.
Yeah, we like this guy. Yay. And he eventually is confronted by Tullius. Tullius
up?
has
What's
had
up?
enough of this crap.
What's up? You killed my daughter.
He hears all this stuff, and he storms to Superbus's house, and he reads him the riot act. How dare you? I am the king, and you'll not disrespect me. Unfortunately, he doesn't bring his guards with him.
Oh.
And Superbus beats the hell out of him.
Oh.
Throws him physically down the stairs to his villa. And, like, spits at him. And makes the old man walk home alone in the dark.
Wow.
And then he goes to his two guys, go kill him. And they stalk him through the streets and murder him.
No!
So
Not
this
serving
like,
us to us. I
this
like
nice
that guy.
this nice old king
Nice
that everybody
guy.
liked
Everyone liked him.
gets knifed in the street after getting the crap kicked out of him by his son-in-law, who murdered his daughter, and he probably doesn't know that he murdered his daughter. So
Oh.
this is just bad. And then Tarquinius Superbus, the worstest, gets himself elected king.
Yeah, well, you didn't see that coming.
Yeah, this doesn't go over well with everybody. People are like, dude, we know, murdered this guy.
Yeah.
We can't prove it, but we know you murdered this guy.
Sure.
Unacceptable. On top of that, Tarquin immediately starts going to war with people.
Why not?
I mean, and Servius had gone to war, but he'd claimed 2 hills.
Okay.
So he was successful wars. Tarquinius wants wealthy places, so he eventually gets into a fight with they're called the Rutuli. It's a city nearby.
The Rutuli.
The Rutuli, Rutuli, Rutuli. They're known for being very, very wealthy, but not great fighters.
Okay.
But they don't offer combat. They're like, yeah, we're not fighting the Roman army. You guys are good at this, and we're like, mm-mm.
We're Rutulis.
But we got a big fortress, so we're just going to stay inside.
Okay.
So they're not offered battle, so the Romans get bored. And they start, making jokes and gambles and bets. And then eventually they say, who's got the most virtuous wife?
Oh.
So everybody's got their opinion about whose wife is most virtuous. And this guy, Collatinus, says, my wife is the most virtuous.
Well, that was the discussion. Good job, Collatinus.
Well,
Thanks
so
for
they all
chiming in.
decide, well, let's prove it. Let's go see what our wives are doing while
Right
we're
now.
off at the war. And they do. They go and sneak off and spy on their wives. They all creep around in a group and spy on their wives. And when they get to Collatinus's wife,
Thought people in power had nothing better to do.
they do have nothing. They're waiting to fight an army that's never coming out. They get drunk and bored. They go do.
Let's
stupid
go
stuff.
find out if we can be angry at our women.
Exactly. I want to find out if I need a divorce or
Gotta
defeat
get-
somebody.
I mean, I gotta get angry at somebody.
So all of the guys'
God,
wives.
I wish we had football.
Exactly. All the guys' wives are partying. They're not necessarily being unfaithful, but they're not being
Sure, just having a good time with their
Except-
jerk husbands done around.
exactly. Except Lucretia, who's doing household stuff.
Okay.
She's running the household. And she's
Nice.
doing a good job of it, and it proves
Hey,
Collatinus right.
there we go.
Unfortunately for her, she's exceptionally pretty.
Oh, unfortunately for her.
And she's exceptionally pretty, and this draws the eye of Sextus. Sextus is Superbus's son.
Well,
So many S's.
you could. I mean, a guy named Sextus.
Sextus. So guess what he does? He breaks away from the army,
Yep.
goes to her house,
Yep.
says, you're either going to sleep with me,
You're
or I'm
pretty.
going to say, you cheated on your husband, I caught you with a slave, and then I murdered you and the slave.
He sounds like a apple off the old Superbus tree.
Yes. It just, rotten fruit does not fall far. He has his way. She immediately, once he leaves, confesses everything to her father and her husband,
Because she's a good person.
and then commits suicide.
Yay!
It's an uplifting story. They lose their minds.
Who?
Understandably. Her
Her
father
family?
and her husband.
Yeah.
And this is old school Rome where they're blood debt. But wait.
But wait.
Patient. We will be patient.
Oh.
So what winds up, it becomes Collatinus, who's the husband, Valerius, who is
Not
like her
Valerius.
father-in-law, and that guy's important. His name is Publius Valerius.
Publius
Publius Valerius. Lucretius, that's her dad, Lucretius,
Yeah.
and a guy named Brutus, who is related to Brute Brutus. He's like the founding father of the family. He's a big deal. I mean, he's what makes the family famous.
Okay.
We're going to find out why. So this leads to what the heck's going on? Well, these guys are furious. This is the son of the current king. has
Yeah.
raped a girl of great virtue and nobility
Yeah.
and kindness and beauty. She's like the epitome of Roman principles of what they want in their women.
Yep.
And he just violated her, and she just refused to let anybody feel bad or feel victimized or anything like that, and she takes her own life. That she just is like, nope, this is done.
I mean, one person should have felt bad about it.
And everybody felt bad about it. Like, her father is like sobbing, holding her, like, it's okay, and she's like,
Yeah.
nope, kills herself.
Yeah, no, the Sextus guy.
Sextus guy should
He
feel
probably
bad.
should have
Oh,
got it.
just wait. Sextus gets his. Because these guys are exceptionally powerful men.
Yeah.
They are like senator class, wealthy. They're warriors. This is the part of the army that was with him, and they were like leaders. Brutus is the head of the king's guard, like his personal bodyguards, and he has a lot of power. So Brutus says, "All right, this is enough. We're getting rid of this friggin' guy. He's just the worst.
Yeah.
We're done." Brutus goes back to Rome and calls they call it the comitia. It's like the committee of the people.
Okay.
He has the power to do that as his rank. And he says, this guy's garbage. He murdered, or his son murdered Lucretia, and he let his son go. Like, we know that he's fine with it.
Yeah.
He's leading us on stupid wars. A thing that he was doing was he was building a lot, like a bit, just branching out the city, but at people's expense and faster than they could handle, and it was basically bankrupting the city, which is why he was going on these wars. And they didn't have enough people to fill up the space.
Yeah.
So it was just
And he got the job through nefarious.
through nefarious means, through very nefarious means. He's a bad dude.
Right, bad family. All right.
So they just say, this guy's garbage, here's the reasons. Litany of them. And
Yeah.
the people are like, yeah, we said so.
We've been telling you
We've
this.
been in agreement about this. This guy sucks. It's you rich people who didn't think, oh, this guy sucks. So they finally rise up. He gets the people to basically vote that the king is no longer the king.
Okay.
They fire him.
You're out.
You're out. Get out. You're fired. And then the king, who's with an army of Romans who just voted him out of being king, goes, ooh, I'm going to die if I stay here.
Yeah.
So he runs away.
This wimp.
Yep. So king runs away. Sextus, knowing he's going to be on a list of people to be murdered, also runs away.
Yeah, he should have.
However, when he goes to this fortress where he thinks he'll be safe, this is not the first time he's done something horrible. They don't
Hey.
explain what it was. Livy's not really clear on it, but he apparently did some really heinous stuff here, too, at this garrison.
Perfect.
And not having his daddy to protect him, he is assassinated almost immediately.
Yay!
He's murdered by the soldiers. They're just like, no, you suck. He probably did the same thing to some other soldier's wife.
Wow.
So-
I'm not usually the one to applaud for the death of somebody,
But-
screw that guy.
No. When it's a rapist monster, I applaud. I'm fine with that.
All right.
So the monster's dead. But Daddy Monster, who spawned this gross thing,
Sure.
he's still around. And he goes back home to Tarquinia, the land of the Tarquins, and says, hey, so I'm not really fully in the family anymore, but Rome sucks, and they kicked me out,
Oops.
and I'd like it back.
Rome sucks, but I want it back.
I want it back. And they took all this land from us. And then he goes and he talks to the Veii. And the Veii are like the ancestral enemies of the Romans.
The who?
The Veii. 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 Or it's Veii. Could be. Veii.
Okay.
Typically the EI is something else. And then
Yes.
it ends with O, and then an old McDonald shows up.
Yes.
So the Veii are like ancestral enemies. They were like on a rival hill, and the Romans and the Veii have been fighting for like a century. They just hate each other. And the Romans typically win. That's how their land
That's
started
why
to
we
spread.
haven't heard of the Veii
That's
before.
why we haven't heard of the Veii. And he gets and they're both Etruscan cities. So he gets these Etruscans to be like, yeah, we'll back your play. We'll
Sure.
back you.
We'll do it.
These
Got it.
stupid Romans, we don't like them.
Yeah. Haven't liked them for a while.
Haven't liked them for a while. They suck. We don't like them. Not one bit. Meanwhile, back in Rome, other stuff is happening. So that's what the Tarquins go off and do. Bad one, worst one dies, and Daddy's like going to get an army.
Yep.
His wife, the assassin woman, also flees because she reads the writing on the wall, and we don't really hear much about her. She probably goes back to be with her husband in evil land. The evil kingdom.
Okay.
Uh,
That's Service's daughter.
yep.
Right.
Minor.
Minor.
Talia Minor.
Totally a minor.
Talia Minor. Don't name your kids Minor. That might breed some kind of, envy or
Something.
anger, murderous intent. Might end up being assassin. If you want an assassin kid.
What would they have done if they had a third kid?
Omega, maybe?
Yeah, okay.
Major, minor, meh.
The other
That
one-
wouldn't have just gotten the name.
Oh,
Just
man.
Talia. Talia Major, Talia Minor, and Talia.
And the rest.
And the other ones. I mean, yeah.
All right.
Talia, they just start using numerals. 3, 4, 5, whatever. And that was actually very common in Rome to name all your daughters the same. Just a feminized version of the last name.
Well,
So, like,
So-
in the Julius family, they're the Julii, they were all Julia.
Julia. So regular George Foreman technique.
Yep.
All right.
But
Carry on.
it's effective. It keeps it
Sure.
It keeps it really simple to name your kids. It sucks for historians because
Yeah,
then you're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
which one? Which Julia? That one. The daughter of Sectorius Julius Sempeverus. Like, which one? Which happens a lot in this
Yeah.
book.
Well, back
It
in
happens a lot in
there were
this.
less people back in
There were
history.
less people in history.
They didn't have as many names.
They didn't have as many names. You just had to keep going through them. And eventually they started going, what if we add a name?
What if we made up new names?
We have new names, and then we come up with like cognomens and eponyms and all these nyms, and they're like, I like that idea. But not for the peasants. Peasants get no fun names.
Yeah. Okay.
And the peasants are like, And the peasants, though, have tons of names.
Oh, sure.
They have tons of names.
We didn't know it was a thing. We could thought we could just make up names.
Yeah, we just were naming each other. We just
We're over here having fun making up
shaking
names.
some dice, and that's
Bob.
that many names. Okay, put the tiles in this order. They play Scrabble to
Sure.
name their kids. 62 points. Good job. Your name's Titus.
All
Yay!
right. Xerxes.
Yeah, there we go. Little did they know. Xerxes is cool. Anyway, moving back to Rome,
Yeah.
the Romans now don't have a king.
Whoops.
Rather than elect a new one, they said, no more kings.
Yeah.
No more kings. This is garbage. We've had one good one in the last, 2 centuries.
Yeah.
He was good, but he was still divisive in some ways. Let's do a new system.
Let's try it out.
So the Senate, they come up with this idea. The Senate they say, you guys are just going to run things basically on questions of what we're going to do, but you don't come up with the idea necessarily. The guys who have overall authority, we'll call them the consuls,
Okay.
and there will be 2 of them at any one time, and they will rule jointly
Oh.
with the Senate, and that's how we're going to do it.
That seems very reasonable.
And it was pretty reasonable. Brutus is voted in as one of the guys, and Collatinus, whose wife was murdered, he's the other one.
Okay. We're all set.
We're all set. Except Brutus doesn't like that Collatinus is a Tarquin. Tarquin is in his name. It's one of
Okay.
his 3 names.
All right.
It's like it might be Severus or Marcus Tarquinius Collatinus because he's from Collatina.
Okay.
That's as imaginative as they were. So he says you need to not be the consul,
Oh, I thought he needed to not be a.
but also
Tarquin.
you can't live in Rome anymore.
Sounds like Brutus is the one running things.
Brutus is a bit of a bully.
Okay.
And Collatinus is completely taken unawares. He got stabbed in the back because this guy's supposed to be his friend. His
Literally?
wife was just murdered.
Yep.
He just helped reform the concept of what Rome is.
Here we are.
And then
working
Brutus is
together.
like, but also, no more Tarquins in the city.
Oh.
And he's like, but I'm a Tarquin. Yup. Did I stutter?
Man, it's just
So
rough first day at the office.
yeah, so Collatinus, it's a really short period of time after he gets elected,
Yeah.
just hangs his head and leaves.
Oh.
He doesn't bother.
Well, that system didn't work out at all.
No, he just says, fine. This is dumb.
Okay.
I'm leaving.
Okay.
I'm dumb. The guy who gets replacing him then is, where's his name so I don't get it wrong? Publius Valerius. A man of great renown and skill and respect.
Publius Valerius.
Publius Valerius called Publico.
Publico.
Publico. or Poplicola. Or Poplicola.
Delicious.
It's the best of the colas. It's Popli. I don't know what Popli is flavored like, but it's Publius Valerius Poplicola. He takes Calatinus' place as consul, and he is famous as a soldier.
Okay.
He's a really good soldier. Not much else is really known about this guy up until this point.
That's
Other
kind of
than
exciting.
he's wealthy, he's a really good soldier.
And he's got a great name.
He's connected to the murder affair. I think he's a relative of hers.
Okay.
So he hates the Tarquins. Doesn't hate Collatinus. Feels kind of bad that Collatinus leaves, but he's like, okay, fine, pragmatism, we got to run a country here.
Yeah.
What's going on in the world around us? Brutus, what are we doing? Well, Brutus says, we got to fight the Tarquin king. He's coming back. He's bringing friends.
He's angry at us for some reason.
For some reason. Maybe because we booted him out of his country after he
I don't
murdered a
know
bunch of people.
what his problem
I don't know what
is.
his problem is. And, everyone's looking at Brutus kind of like, you're a bit graspy. You're a bit graspy.
Yeah.
You're right, but you're a bit graspy. So Brutus being one of the consuls, and Poplicola being the other.
Yep.
It sounds like a pasta dish.
Sounds
Poplicola.
delicious,
Sounds
whatever it is.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a pasta with it's cooked in Coca-Cola,
That sounds less delicious.
there's that braised what is it? It's like a beef that's
Okay.
cooked in Coca-Cola and it's put on tacos. It's amazing.
Okay.
It's amazing.
I believe you.
I don't remember what that's called. My girlfriend. Maggie, find out.
Poplicola.
Poplicola. So Poplicola leads the infantry in the army, which is the much bigger force,
Yep.
but less respected. And Brutus gets the equites, the cavalry. Equity. Equite.
Equestrian.
Equestrian. Yep.
Yep.
Equitable. It's
Horses.
almost like all of that is tied into the Romanizing of wealth.
Oh.
If the wealthier class were the equites,
Okay.
because they could afford a horse, armor, shield, weapons, sometimes bows,
Okay.
little horse archery.
Those guys are on Brutus's side.
There are Brutus's guys.
Yeah.
And Poplicola gets the infantry.
Okay.
Now, the infantry at this time fight in a phalanx. A phalanx is just a wall of guys with spears and shields. And then behind them are more guys with spears and shields, and behind it. It's usually like 12 ranks deep.
Okay.
So 12 guys deep, and then like 100 across.
Careful with your spears, everyone.
Yep. Be very careful. The spears in some countries are bigger than others.
Okay.
Like in, as dumb as that sounds, Alexander the Great's famous for his guys had what's called a sarissa, which was like a 15-foot spear,
Ooh.
which would be very difficult to use, but
I
they
guess.
trained and they were really good at them.
You could poke someone 15 feet away from you.
Yup. And you could fight elephants and chariots and all this stuff. The Roman spear's shorter, and
Yeah.
this predates Alexander doing his whole
But
thing.
I don't know if I could lift a 15-foot spear to be effective.
Right. You have to train. Yeah, and you do it one-handed. That's the other thing. They would do it overhand and the shield, and they just do this stabbing motion.
15 feet is a long way. You
It's
ever
a
try to
really long-
extend a tape measure?
Yep.
Like after it's 6 or 7 feet.
And they
it's-
usually had a counterweight on the end, like
Sure.
a ball with a spike, because as you walk, stab
Oh, okay.
anybody that's on the ground still. You'd literally walk over the bodies of your enemies.
Oh, I thought
and
maybe
stick
it was for cleaning up litter.
'em. I mean, you could.
I guess.
I want that. It's a great way to grab a shield you see on the ground. You're like, ooh, that one's mine. Litter. We're on litter patrol with a 15-foot spear to do it. This seems inefficient. What if we just use the bottom part? Nope. Training. That's probably their training regimen.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Just
So,
walk around with the spear and pick up leaves.
Cool.
That's how they got leaves off the
go
ground.
clean up the courtyard.
This sucks.
All this seems unlikely.
It seems very unlikely, but we don't know all the
don't
details
know.
of their training.
That's the plus side of not
We have
having
guesses.
all the knowledge.
We can make stuff up as we go along. All right, so they're arraying for battle against the Etruscans. It's a place called Silva Arsia.
Silver?
Silva?
Silva.
Silva? Silva. Arsia. Arsia, which everyone knows means silver butt. No,
Arsia.
Arsia. But it's this place kind of between the two cities where they're going to meet.
Okay.
They fight,
Right.
and it is a brutal fight. It dirty and nasty and unpleasant. They kind of get their butts kicked by the Roman infantry,
Yeah.
but the Roman cavalry gets its butt kicked by the Tarquinii.
Oh,
In the battle, Brutus fights his cousin, who is on the Tarquin side.
okay.
They have this splendid duel. And Brutus kills his cousin, but is mortally wounded in the process.
Splendid.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
Yes.
After kicking out his friend. So Brutus is carried away from the field and eventually dies.
Sorry, Brutus.
Sorry, Brutus.
Brought this on yourself, though, really.
Right. But because that guy was one of their leaders, and the Roman infantry is doing such a good job, and they outnumber the cavalry start to kind of, I don't really want to, and then the rest of the Etruscan army kind of, I don't really want to, and they leave. They flee.
No one really wants to.
And the Romans are exhausted by all of this. They've been fighting for like a whole day.
Yep.
Apparently, the battle supposedly took place the last day of February.
Okay. This also, I imagine, is a fight that no one wanted anyway.
Not really.
I feel it's hard to muster excitement for a fight.
I mean, for the Romans, they were fighting the tyrant king.
Mm-hmm.
So they're fired up about it. And the Veii are like, vengeance for all the times we lost.
Okay.
So they're motivated. But it's exhausting because they're fighting in armor with a big spear and a shield and a helmet for basically the majority of a day. And they don't have the system in place. Like the Roman legion eventually develops one of the most brilliant military systems of all time for that era. With spears and swords and bows and stuff fighting. Not, I have a machine gun and I mow down 82 people in 1 minute. Like, not that.
Brilliant.
That beats Roman
I guess.
tactics just by cheating, basically.
Sometimes your enthusiasm is weird.
True. I get excited though because I think the Roman war machine is really fascinating.
Sure.
The way it functions, and we saw it in the great TV show Rome.
Yeah.
They show very early on how the Romans would fight. They change places in the front, but it was kind of scary because it works like a machine, and that's weird.
That is weird.
That is weird. Like, that's weird. I know you. I actually don't get excited about that. I don't like when it becomes rote to
Mechanized.
murder people.
Yeah.
Mechanizing. Like when we talk about battles, this is why I prefer this part of history, because it's much more horrifying and difficult to kill somebody with a sword or even a bow than it is to just shoot them with a gun. And that's when we start seeing wars where tens of thousands of people start dying. Couldn't do that with a sword because it just would have taken too long.
Right.
And you really have to muster up your courage and your scruples all at the same. Like, oh, it's okay to stab a guy today. It's not okay to stab a guy tomorrow. You have to have some. You have to pick.
Yes.
It's very difficult. But war wasn't so easy back then. Nowadays, pew, pew, pew.
Hopefully someday it'll just be
No more.
weapons versus other weapons, like
like a BattleBots thing. That's what I'm hoping for. Just like big but I want it to be fun to watch. Big robots punching each other.
And don't worry, the richest people will still win.
And we'll just build
go
the
on.
robots. You just made me sad. Okay, so Brutus is dead, and Poplicola, with his infantry, manages to hold the line and drive off the Etruscans. There's a legend that the voice of our good guy Servius Tullius, supposedly his voice was heard in the woods saying the Romans killed one more than the Etruscans.
I was keeping count from the woods.
It's like, you guys won, and then he goes, and that makes it a Roman victory. You killed one more guy than they did. You won.
I was counting.
I was counting. I'm dead, but I'm counting. That's obviously mega.
Oh,
legend.
yeah. So he's dead.
He's
but
very
his
dead.
Voice
but
came
his
out.
voice came out of the woods.
And he had
to
nothing better to do in the afterlife than.
Good thing Brutus killed his cousin, and otherwise it'd have been a tie.
And that's, of course, how wars are won. It's,
Who kills
it's
more
points.
guys? It's points.
It's just the points.
It is just points. Each guy is a point.
How many more points on the scoreboard? All right.
Cavalry are worth 2 points. It's
Oh.
a horse and a guy.
Great.
3 points because that guy's worth more because he's got more money. That's how they
Horses
gauge it.
didn't ask to be in this at all.
Nope, but they're in it. Sorry, guys, you count as points.
All right.
So, brutal fighting over. Poplicola goes back, and he's super duper happy. He has crushed the tyrant
By one.
by one. And his guys are in really good spirits. So they get back, and the
A
Senate
win's a win,
says,
boys. A win's a
we
win.
are going to celebrate in the greatest fashion possible.
Woo! Bacchus, here we
We're
come.
going to celebrate your triumph. That's what we'll call it. A triumph.
What? They made up the word
They,
triumph
uh,
then?
They made it an official event, called it
Oh.
a triumph. A triumph is, in Rome, it's celebrated from this point on. Before this is not a thing.
Yeah.
But from then on, and there's a book of just all of the triumphs of Rome.
Okay.
It was recorded in history of this is why we had it. Da, 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 da. I didn't even bother looking at it because they had one like sometimes twice a year.
Sure.
So
Lots of
there's-
triumphs.
It's a lot of triumphs.
Got lessons of value of it,
And,
really.
and what it is a celebration of a victorious military campaign. It doesn't matter who does it. It doesn't matter if you're the king or a general. But it's for the army leader.
Okay.
So,
It's for the record books.
for the
folks.
record books, this is the peasants don't get it. Sorry,
You just don't understand.
you don't.
It's a fun thing we
It's
do.
a fun thing we do.
We enjoy winning. You
And
seen our
you-
trophy case?
Yep. Look at all of them.
Look at how bad we're good.
So what separates this from like other like military parades is it's unarmed. Soldiers do not carry weapons in Rome. That's a big no-no
Oh, okay.
because they can just turn around and start murdering people.
We found we can't trust these murder machines.
Yep, you are
in our
trained to
neighborhoods.
kill people all day,
Yep.
every day, intimately. maybe
And if
you
everyone
get drunk in a pub.
if anyone's been in a parade, you know how annoying and stressful it is to be in the parade. That
Yep.
if I did have a weapon, I might turn on the audience.
Exactly. And
I'm
these
a
guys
fairly
just came
peaceful
back.
guy.
Yeah, these guys are murder machines. They just come back from a giant
Sure.
battlefield. They watch their friends die.
Yeah.
They killed family members. Maybe
Make them
on
march
the
through the
side.
streets on a
And now
hot
they got-
July afternoon.
Yep. Yep.
When they want to be in bed.
They gotta go through. They disarm them.
Yeah.
And people are waving. Yeah, you guys
Yay.
did great. And they're like, I have killed so many.
Yes. Why'd I have to be behind the band?
Yep. Why do we all have to be behind the horses?
Ugh.
It's just poop everywhere we go. Because at the front of this parade is a chariot drawn by 4 horses, usually white. And on the chariot is the commander of the army. He gets to wear a laurel,
Yay.
fancy little crown.
Look what I did.
Sometimes they were gold, other times they were just laurels.
Okay.
Didn't matter. Honestly, the material didn't matter. The gold laurel was largely for the emperor, when the
Okay.
emperor became a thing. But sometimes they just held like a symbolic one behind their head. Eventually what happened during these was they had a guy standing behind the guy with the laurel, the general, saying, "Remember you are mortal. Remember you are mortal."
I've heard of that thing.
Constantly reminding them that
That's a thing.
this is a big event, but you're still just a guy and you work for these people.
Okay.
You don't work for you. You're not a god.
Do we know who came up with that? That's a
The concept of telling them that, it
Yeah.
was probably a decision by the Senate or the consuls. More likely the Senate, because they're like, we need to make sure the consul knows he's not the king. So we just became a country without a king, and we just had a big war over this, and we're probably going to have a few down
Can
the
you
line.
imagine like getting that job though? I mean, the first one to do that.
Yep.
Ugh. Remember
It's every time he's just like, remember you're not the king, and just want you to know,
Get out of here!
you're not the king.
Oh god, I'd shove you off my chariot
You're
so
not the
fast.
king.
Off my
And
chariot.
imagine if it was somebody who just was a smart aleck too, just like, by the way, you're not the king.
Like I was enjoying my parade.
Not the king.
I was having fun.
not the king. This guy's not the king.
Off the chariot for sure.
So that was part of it.
Okay.
Sometimes there's reports, and again, they change depending throughout history which source you read.
Sure.
A lot of the time they say, well, not a lot of the time. There are a few times where they say that the Triumph's guy, Triumphant, the general,
Yeah.
his face was painted red
Oh.
to symbolize Jupiter, the head god,
Alright.
which, Jupiter's red.
Yeah. Sure. Of course he is.
Yeah.
As you know.
Yeah. That's his thing. He's red.
Yeah.
Duh, everybody knows that.
Everyone who sees
Everyone
Jupiter
knows
knows
that. Of
this.
course we do, sir. And then, so he's going through the streets, and it's basically kind of like king for their day. You were celebrated, you partied, you were treated with great respect. The Senate did a whole spiel for you in front of people. People are throwing food and not rotten food.
Sure. Good food.
Good food to the soldiers. They're
Sure.
giving them bread and bringing them out wine and all that. Another reason you don't have the soldiers armed, because now you'd have drunk guys with
Oh,
spears.
sure, yeah.
Terrible combination of drunk plus weapon. No matter.
Well, this sounds
who.
like a delightful thing.
It's a delightful thing. They also tied
if
it.
you're the winner.
Yeah, if you're the winner, and the Romans, well, they were the only ones who were. And a big part of this too is you brought your spoils of war.
Ooh.
So he's
Look
got
what we got.
exactly. He's got his chariot. He's got his soldiers behind him. They're carrying all this loot on wagons to go. Look at this. It's the spears of their enemies and the armor. It's the standards. That was a big one. Was the big standard they carried around. It was
Yeah.
all of this stuff. And they're like, we did this.
Look at us.
And this event is considered the official start of the Roman Republic,
Oh.
which lasts for more than 500 years.
Yep.
But it's the first time that the army rises up, overthrows a king, and never has a king again because of foreign intervention.
Huh.
They secure their republic.
Yeah.
They fight several battles after this, and after each campaign, they have another triumph. They start realizing this is pretty cool. They start
This is
tying
kinda
in.
fun.
They do like a bread and games thing.
Yeah.
It goes from a one-day thing to like a week-long party. Every Roman citizen gets a piece of the action.
Wow.
On particularly profitable ones, like when Caesar fought the Gauls, he defeated them and took this city of Alesia. It was like 120,000 people there. He took them all as slaves.
Ooh.
So that was suddenly 120,000 people got brought back to Rome in chains. Every soldier got like 5 slaves.
Wow. That's
And it obviously, not just talking about the human awfulness of that, of just enslaving a people, which,
Right.
by the way, the Gauls enslaved people too. So it wasn't just the Romans. Everybody in Europe took slaves at the
It's a
time.
thing to do.
That was the thing. Everybody, like everywhere, took slaves at the time. So
I mean,
it's not okay.
I mean, yeah, I'm not. This is not pro slave, but it makes to me it makes sense. If you capture the enemy, you got one of two choices:
Kill them.
kill him or not kill
Or
him.
not kill 'em.
If you're gonna not kill him, you better
Do
put him to
something.
work.
Because otherwise, what? They're going to go sit in you got 120,000 person jail?
Yeah.
Sitting over
And you just gotta. Then you have to feed and water them.
Yep.
Nah,
Yep.
man,
No,
they gotta
no.
get to
They gotta
work.
work. And a lot of the times, the
And they're
Romans
not gonna
did-
want to work.
No, the Romans a lot of the time did treat their slaves exceptionally well.
Sure.
Because if you treat a slave like garbage, they're going to stab you in your sleep.
That's right. Yeah.
And there are instances, like in Spartacus's slave revolt, where they refused to be freed. Because they're like, I get a roof over my head,
Yeah.
I get meals, I get nice clothes, because I'm a rich person's slave.
Ah.
And this is awesome. My old life, I lived in an alley
Yeah.
and was covered in poop.
It was still slave-like conditions.
Still slave-like
but-
conditions, but now at least I get fed.
Nice.
And occasionally, I might get yelled at.
Sure.
But I'll take it.
Yeah. All right.
It was not
Times
obvious
is
all of
tough.
them. And again,
I've been sending my application out, but
I'd been going, I do my dailies,
yeah.
walk here, try to get a job at, I'm trying to find a clever thing, Burger Caesar.
Sure. Orange Julius.
Orange Julius, love it. And they just,
They're not hiring.
they're not hiring.
Yeah.
Guy who looks and smells like I do. Can't help it.
What are you gonna do?
But so yeah, that's the start of the official start of the Roman Republic. 509 BC, 1st of March, and it becomes a really celebrated thing. There are 5 other triumphs that occurred on that day. There were like important events that took place on the 1st of March that were well regarded. So it really gets solidified in Roman history as like one of their most important days.
March 1st.
I think it's the celebration of. It might be the celebration of Mars,
Oh,
which would fit because March,
sure.
which is their god of war, because they don't have any other ideas. That's just their word for Ares.
Yeah.
So they literally have like a different version of all the Greek gods.
Yeah.
So that's that. That's the Roman Republic is secured for 500 years until the Romans decide they don't want it anymore.
Well, good job, Papicola.
Yeah, Papicola.
Really?
Yep. He's consul like 10 times. He's reelected the next year and the year after and the year after. He takes some time off, then he's reelected, and then he's reelected. He's a very popular guy. Papicola.
Papicola.
He's well respected. He's Publius Papicola.
Well, I learned plenty, and I hope you did too.
Yep.
And Will is slowly fading away into
light.
into
I'm
the light.
passing on.
Wow. That's amazing. Good job. We're going to be discussing, before Will completely fades away, we'll be discussing next week another historical moment.
Yes.
Next week, we're discussing the first publication of the Daily Current, or Courant.
Corinth.
have to look up how that's
Yeah, I have to look
pronounced.
up pronunciation.
It's a newspaper.
Yeah.
That
Hopefully, no war.
That happened in 1702. Yes, well, hopefully people didn't die, but we'll find
Well,
out.
I mean, for all we know, times were tough.
Will always seems to find a way to find dead people in these.
Yep.
So thanks for watching. If you enjoy this, obviously like it, comment if we got anything wrong, or if you know how to pronounce things better than we do, feel free to comment.
Yep. Let us know.
And I think that's it. Is that it, Will?
Like, subscribe,
Like,
share,
share.
make them like and subscribe.
Yeah. We're slowly building this
Build
channel.
this thing up.
We have thousands of followers.
Thousands and thousands. Someday we'll have millions.
We'll see you next week.